If you've been diagnosed with tinnitus, there's a good chance someone has told you at least one of these things. It will probably go away all on its own. There's nothing you can do about it. You'll just have to learn how to live with it. Sometimes these words come from people who mean well, sometimes they come from doctors. But here's what I want you to understand. That advice is not just unhelpful. In 2026, it's outdated. And outdated advice has a real cost because it doesn't just shape what people believe, it shapes what people tolerate. I've had patients who sat across from me who've waited years because someone told them nothing could work. By the time they came in, the tinnitus wasn't just a sound anymore, it had gotten into their sleep, their focus, and their relationships. And that should just not be happening. I'm Dr. Layne Garrett, founder of Timpanogos Hearing and Tinnitus here in Utah. I've been treating tinnitus patients for well over 20 years now. Today, I'm going through the 5 myths that I hear constantly, what the research actually shows, and what I think instead. If you want tinnitus and hearing information that's honest, research-backed, and not wrapped in miracle cure language, subscribe to the channel. That's what we do here. Myth number 1, it'll probably go away on its own. I understand why people believe this. If your tinnitus appeared out of nowhere, it makes sense to hope that it will leave the same way. And sometimes it does. If your tinnitus started after a single noise exposure like a concert or a firecracker and your hearing is otherwise normal, you have a real chance of spontaneous resolution. That's acute tinnitus and the prognosis is different. But once tinnitus has been present more than a few months, a study published in the European Archives of Otolaryngology found a full remission of chronic tinnitus is rare, and that tinnitus characteristics tend to remain stable over time rather than resolving on their own. Hoping it goes away is not a plan. It's a gamble, and the odds aren't in your favor once you're past that 3 to 6 month window. Here's what I think instead. Acute tinnitus warrants watchful waiting and hearing protection with smart lifestyle choices. Chronic tinnitus warrants an evaluation. Waiting another year does not improve your treatment options. It delays relief. Myth number 2. Tinnitus is so loud it must be damaging my hearing. And this one's completely understandable. At 3 in the morning, dead quiet, it can feel like a jet engine or a smoke alarm that just won't shut off. Absolutely deafening. And then when we do psychoacoustic tinnitus testing, where we actually measure the sound, patients are almost always shocked. Research consistently shows tinnitus is typically about 5 to 15 decibels louder than their hearing when matched to an external sound. That's quieter than a whisper, quieter than your refrigerator. So why does it feel so loud? Because tinnitus isn't just an auditory event, it's a neurological one. The distress doesn't come from the volume, it comes from the meaning your brain assigns to it. The fight or flight response that it triggers. The hypervigilance that locks your attention to it. 2 people can have the same tinnitus loudness and completely different impact on their lives. And if you're telling yourself it's damaging your hearing, tinnitus is a symptom of auditory system changes, not a cause of further damage. Here's what I think. Your tinnitus probably isn't as loud as it feels, but your brain's reaction to it is very real and reactions are treatable. Myth number 3, there's nothing you can do about tinnitus. This is the myth that frustrates me the most because it's the one most likely to come from a clinician who doesn't specialize in tinnitus. I've had patients tell me, I didn't come sooner because I was told nothing could be done by the doctor or audiologist. And every time I hear that, I think the person isn't just losing time, they're losing months of sleep and hope they didn't need to lose. The evidence is substantial. A meta-analysis reviewing 15 randomized control trials found that cognitive behavioral therapy significantly reduced tinnitus-related distress. The 2025 Tondorf Lecture at the World Tinnitus Congress confirmed that cognitive behavioral therapy remains the most strongly supported treatment we have, whether delivered in person, by audiologists, or through guided online programs. And that's before we get to sound therapy, tinnitus retraining therapy, and hearing aids with tinnitus management features, and bimodal neuromodulation like linear, which received FDA de novo approval that pairs sound stimulation with gentle tongue stimulation to help the brain reorganize the response to tinnitus. There is no reliable cure. No treatment eliminates tinnitus completely for people, but no cure is not the same as no care. Reducing tinnitus distress from a 9 to a 2 on a 10-point scale, that's not nothing. That's sleeping again. That's focusing again. That's getting your life back. What I think, just learn to live with it should not be the default response to tinnitus anymore. It's outdated and patients deserve better. Myth number 4, Tinnitus is just a hearing problem. Now, there is a kernel of truth here. Tinnitus and hearing loss are linked in over 90% of cases. When the auditory nerves send less signal to the brain compensates by increasing its own internal activity. That's where the phantom tinnitus sound comes from. But once tinnitus becomes chronic, it doesn't just stay in the auditory system. Research shows it activates the limbic system, the brain's emotional processing center, which is why tinnitus blends into sleep, concentration, and mood. It's connected to anxiety and depression, not just as a side effect, but at the neurological level. This is why hearing aids alone, while genuinely helpful, aren't always enough. The best outcomes I see come from treatment plans that address the auditory piece and the psychological piece together. And that's why incomplete tinnitus evaluations give incomplete answers. If your audiologist only discussed hearing aids or your ENT ruled out a medical cause, you only got part of the picture. Here's what I think. Tinnitus management done well is multidisciplinary. The brain is involved. The treatment needs to be as well. Myth number 5. Any audiologist can treat tinnitus. I say this carefully because I have a lot of respect for general audiologists. But tinnitus management is a specialty within audiology, and the training gap is real. Most audiology programs don't include deep tinnitus training. The certificate in tinnitus management from the American Board of Audiology exists precisely because there was a need for advanced, specialized training beyond standard coursework. For mild or uncomplicated tinnitus, a general audiologist who fits good hearing aids and provides solid counseling might be what you need. But if your tinnitus is significantly affecting your sleep, your concentration, or your relationships, you deserve more than that as a starting point. And whether the clinician holds the CHTM credential, ask whether the clinic offers cognitive behavioral therapy programs, sound therapy protocols, and validated outcome measures like the Tinnitus Handicap Inventory. And ask of this specifically, how do you measure whether treatment is working? Not just a, how do you feel about your tinnitus, but actual measurement. If those questions get blank stares, that's information for you. Here's what I think. Tinnitus severity should determine the level of specialty care. Significant distress from tinnitus deserves a tinnitus specialist. So there they are, the 5 myths, one common thread. They all lower expectations, and low expectations mean delayed treatment, longer suffering, and less hope than the evidence actually supports. Tinnitus may not have a guaranteed cure, but that's not the same thing as saying there's nothing you can do. No cure does not mean no care, and anyone telling you otherwise in 2026 is behind the times. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these myths were told to you? I read all of them, and it genuinely helps me understand what people are walking in with. If you want to go deeper on any of these topics, how cognitive behavioral therapy and tinnitus go together, what bimodal neuromodulation actually involves, and how hearing aids could help, all of that's in our free online learning center. No email required, and you can find a link in the description. And if you're here in northern Utah and you've been told that there's nothing to be done for your tinnitus, and you want a real tinnitus evaluation from someone who specializes in this, we have clinics along the Wasatch Front. I'm leaving a link to make an appointment below. Thanks for watching.